Thank you very much, and an absolute pleasure to be here. Welcome to everyone that's taking part in the session. As Sarah said, my name is Abdul Chohan, and I'm going to be taking you through the basics of Showbie. In fact, we might delve a little bit deeper into Showbie to kind of understand what it is and what it does. So without spending too much time on introductions, if I just share my screen with you, you should be able to see my screen in a moment. And if I go straight into the presentation and give you an idea, a little bit about what Showbie is. So first and foremost, to kind of understand the context of Showbie. Showbie, for those of you that have not kind of known or heard about Showbie before, Showbie is a hybrid learning platform. It helps educators provide richer, deeper, more personalized feedback to learners, students, delegates, if you're trainees and using training courses in a very simple and easy way. Showbie has been helping schools to foster a community of transparency and feedback across teachers, parents, and learners. It's used by over 3 million people across the world. And if you are from a UK kind of background, which is kind of where I am located, and then lots of MATs and councils are also looking at this. But also there are larger deployments in certain countries like Oslo, a number of large schools in the UAE and so on, in the US and so on have been using this. Showbie also has a huge variety of partnerships with some really powerful other applications that support assessment, augmented reality tools, whiteboarding, and so on. We won't have time to go through that today, but if you want to know more about that, absolutely, you can get in touch with me. So my background, I've been a high school teacher. I've been a senior leader at a school in the UK for many years, and then eventually becoming principal of that school. And I was also the CEO of a multi-academy trust in the UK as well. I've then kind of went on to do some independent work, supporting schools, some ministries of education with large deployment rollouts, with technology and developing digital strategies for their schools. And more recently, I've been working with Showbie as their VP of Learning, very much to support schools in their understanding of digital strategy and how technology can really amplify pedagogical approaches in the classroom. So what we're going to do is I'm going to introduce you to the idea of a workflow, because before I kind of give you the hands-on with Showbie and begin to demonstrate some of its features and applications, it's really important to understand why the workflow element is really quite key. Workflow is something that teachers and educators have been using and have actually understood for many, many years, simply because it's been the bread and butter of what teachers have been doing for a long, long time. And really, it's really part of some very simple questions that we can ask, and teachers have been answering for a long time. So how do teachers share new subject content? That's been very simple in the past. You know, there's a lot of teacher talk that happens. There will be annotations, there's direct instruction that's given to students. There might be teachers showing videos and asking questions and so on as well. Actually, the way in which you can begin to share subject knowledge can actually be significantly different and be amplified. So you might still be giving direct instruction, but the fact that technology is now allowing you to capture that and make it available for students to listen to watch, and kind of retrieve information whenever they want to, gives you the ability to do things slightly differently. There are also things like how and where do students submit assignments? And now, typically in the past, traditionally, this was the easy question to answer because we were just handing in bits of paper or exercise books and so on. Certainly over the pandemic, that approach has changed. And what we're seeing now is very much an approach that really uses technology that's a lot more kind of in depth. And, we've seen things like Zoom, we've seen things like Teams, Google Classroom, and so on. And also where Showbie is a real kind of market leader in this is that it's really only designed for assessment and feedback, and of course, communication, right? So whereas normally we would kind of submit documents and, there might be Word documents or Google Docs and so on, Showbie has the ability to work across a variety of different kind of documents, yeah, as you'll see as we go along, including handwritten documents that can be uploaded as well. So the workflow has to be something that's consistent. It has to be something that is agreed by the school. It's got to be something that students, parents, and teachers know about. And if it's using the latest tools and technology, then really we should be able to submit a variety of different kinds of assessments, including voice, video, the ability to annotate with voice, and so on. And we'll see examples of that in a minute. The other thing that's quite important is how teachers give feedback on submitted work. And again, historically, this might have been, green pen, red pen, blue pen. It might be additional sheets of paper that's been added in, and then you kind of write on those sheets of paper. Or, it might just be that the teachers are writing in the students' exercise books and giving them feedback that way. And with technology, and you'll see examples of this, that actually the ability to do this can be significantly different through Showbie, because teachers can give verbal feedback, and you're going to see examples of that are really powerful. And there's been a variety of impact studies, a few of which I have led, where we've been able to measure the impact of this quantitatively and qualitatively. So some of the quantitative stuff is, the fact that teachers are spending less time giving high quality feedback. And the number of students that are responding to feedback is actually quite key, because this is what we're really looking for. We're looking for students to respond to the teacher's feedback. Teachers can give fantastic feedback, but if nobody's responding to it, then actually that might not kind of be effective, because there's no response. But one of the things that we have seen is a number of students responding to verbal feedback in 2 schools that I did this in was significantly higher. Now, that's not a large scale study or anything, but actually more and more teachers that have been using Showbie are certainly coming back saying that actually this is something that we are seeing as well. Anyway, the workflow has to be something that is agreed by the organization. I kind of quite often refer to it as the plumbing, because we can give technology out to students. And if we think about technology like taps, they're shiny and you turn it on and we expect water to come out, then water doesn't always come out if we don't have the plumbing in place. And there's been a lot of projects historically with technology that failed because the plumbing wasn't put into place. This workflow, the understanding of where is the impact on pedagogy and how it amplifies learning, that was not really in place. It wasn't consistent and so on. So without us kind of spending further time on slides, let's kind of go into Showbie and see what this looks like. Now, I'm obviously presenting this off my iPad. However, please be aware that Showbie does work on laptops, Chromebooks, Surface tablets, and so on as well. It can work through a browser, and it does so very, very well. And in fact, pretty much everything I'm about to show you will work through a browser. There are a couple of features that are more suited to a tablet with a camera on the back. And for that, I'll point those kinds of features out as we go along. So if I just tap onto this, and you'll notice that if I go into Showbie, here I am. And in fact, I'm just going to go right to the beginning, and you'll see it's got a very simplified layout. And that's intentional design. The fact that the layout is super simplified and allows people to kind of see things very, very easily. So it's not complicated. So on the left-hand side, we will see all our classes. And you can see that I've got a variety of different classes. They're actually schools that we've been training. So all of these things here are actually schools. But, if I was a chemistry teacher, my classes might look something like this, or a maths teacher even. So that might be grade 8. That might be my initials and the room that I'm in. And that's the subject. So you can organize this however you want. Okay. Okay, so if we go into a specific class, let me just pick up a class here. So let's just say if I went into this one, you can also see that I can arrange things based on folders, and I can organize these things however I want, different colors, different names, and so on. Pretty easy to put together, not so difficult. What we will also find is that the ability to kind of, start new assignments. If I was to click on new assignment, I can give it a title, give it a name. I can set a due date, very easy to do. And what I really like about this is that I can actually set different kinds of access. So I could lock this, and that means that nobody can actually join this. No students can view any resources or edit any resources because I've locked it. They will know that the assignment is there, but they know that they can't access it. Brilliant for planning, right? Teachers are able to kind of plan things very, very easily, and very easily they can kind of begin to plan things in the future. They can make things view only by clicking on this button. They can, or they can set a date for it's locked, and then it will become view only on a specific date that they then click on, and then they can make it readable or editable at a specific date. So it will automatically lock, view only, or go from lock to writable, and then lock again afterwards as well. You can build a whole schedule around this, which is kind of quite a powerful thing to be able to do. If we go into an assignment that's already exists, so Showbie Basics, this was some training that I did. These are not students, by the way. But if I just kind of go into this, what you'll notice is that as a teacher, and I'm logged in with a pro account as a teacher. So one of the things that I will be able to kind of see here is that I can see all the students in my class, okay? They cannot see one another. I can see them, right? If I click on them, then on the right-hand side, you can see everything that I've sent them and what they've sent me. I can interact with them. So I've got Jennifer here. If I just go to the top, and if I was to write a comment, very easily, and hit the post button, actually, this would go just to Jennifer and nobody else in the class. Right at the top, there's always a shared space. If I click on shared, it means now I'm addressing the whole class. So if I was to write welcome now, and if I was to post that, then actually this would go to everybody in the class. If I just bring your attention to the plus icon here, right? I can now, I've got a whole bunch of different options. And I think this is like one of the simplifying features of Showbie, because you've got a whole host of different things that you can do from here. Okay. So if I was to go to, voice note, oops, sorry about that. If I was to go to voice note, what would happen is I would be able to just record my voice, and my voice would then be disseminated to everybody that's in the class. At the moment, because I'm already using the microphone and I'm using it through Zoom, then that means that I can't really use the microphone and do that at the same time. But typically speaking, I can just hit voice note and speak, and this would then be available to everybody here. Okay. Now, just that one kind of feature means that there are lots and lots of teachers that are saving significant amounts of time, because they can now speak to their students, whereas historically they could only do that if they were in their actual class. Okay, so that's a significant change. That's technology allowing us to do things that we couldn't do before. There are other kind of features as well. And one thing, if I bring your attention to, if I was to just open the browser and come here, and if I just go to Showbie, .com. Okay, here we are. So I've got two apps open here. This is the Showbie app on iPad, and if I was to sign in onto Showbie here on the browser, you'll see the difference between the two. So you'll see how similar the whole thing is, right? Because here we've got we've got our classes, right? And if I just bring the sidebar up, you can see that our assignments are here and so on. And we can kind of see everything that we need to. On the right-hand side, again, we've got the same thing. If I just go to, where are we? There we go. Let's just go to the same class. Exactly the same thing. It looks exactly the same. There's not actually that much difference. If I go into our assignment, Showbie Basics, and if I go into Showbie Basics here, you'll notice again, it's a similar thing. If I go into shared items here on the browser, and if I tap on the plus icon, now this is different. And if I go into shared items here, and if I was to tap on the plus icon, you can see there's differences between the browser version and the version that I've got on the iPad. Now, it's pretty much the same. And in many ways, the only difference is that here I can add from my device, I can add from Drive, OneDrive, and so on. So the ability to connect to Google Drive, the ability to connect to Microsoft OneDrive, that's all possible on the browser version as well. You can also do that from here, but you'd have to click on import file. The things that are not there is scan document, because on the iPad, you've got a camera on the back of the iPad. You're guaranteed to have a camera on the back of the iPad. So therefore, you can switch on the camera and use it as a scanning tool. And on the browser version, that's not there because you don't necessarily have the camera on the back. So that gives you an idea of kind of the similarities between the two. Okay, let's just kind of move on. One of the things that you will also see with this is that there are a few things that are pretty significant in terms of understanding how Showbie becomes quite a powerful tool for feedback. So let's just have a look at some of these features. Let's just say a student has submitted some work, and very easy to submit something in Showbie for the students, and maybe they've submitted a scan of the exercise book, and that's pretty simple to do on iPad. But on a browser, you may need to use something that has a camera on it, and then share the file accordingly. But just watch this, right? If I tap on the plus icon here and I choose scan document, you'll notice I can see the book. And if I just kind of bring that up, it's scanning the book. And I could actually just tap on the big white button on the side, and there it is. It's scanned it. I can adjust it and so on as well. If I just do keep scan, it will keep it at the bottom. And if I turn over the page, it then takes another scan. And I can do that as many times as I want. This is like a scanning tool. And if I just do keep scan again, and then on the bottom right-hand corner, if I hit save, it will save both of those two documents. One thing that it does that's pretty clever is that it will ask me, do I want to add as individual items or do I want to add as document? If I choose add as document, it will then glue both the pages together and turns it into a PDF. The teacher does not need to know any of this. It just does it all in the background, and it's uploaded it right there. Now, I've obviously done that in shared items, so all the students has that. And maybe this is an example of a common mistake that people are making, or maybe it's a really good example that I want people to pay attention to, but I've been able to share that with everyone. And students can do this individually and upload their work. So quite often, the argument of handwriting, pen to paper, and so on, especially if you're in a country where final exams are pen to paper. This is obviously something that is still possible. And in many schools that I've been working with, their approach is still pen to paper, but then they use Showbie to upload the work. Now, why is that adding any more value? What's the difference between that and just taking this home and marking it? Well, actually, there is a significant difference, because if I show you one that I did earlier, if I just go to Dominic here and go down, and if I just bring up a book that here it is, and if I just bring this up, what you'll notice here is I've just tapped on it and I've got a variety of different tools here. So I've got a pen icon that I can then highlight and annotate, and I can kind of use to scribble over. I've got a highlighter pen that I can do different things with and highlight different lines. I've got a comment box. So if I tap here, and let me just tap here, right, just next to Tiny Tim, and here I can actually write feedback that I want. As a teacher, I can do that, give as much feedback as I want. And if I hit the save button, then that will be saved. And I can minimize that. I can put that wherever I want to as well. But I'm just going to leave it there. And where I think things get really interesting is with this button here. This is the audio tool. And again, if I just tap on this thing here, you'll notice that there's a play icon. And if I press play, it will actually play and play back the recorded voice. So the ability to record your voice and annotate over a book document is actually quite powerful. What's also powerful about this is that the example that I've given you is just a handwritten exercise book, but this could be a Word document. It could be a PowerPoint. It could be an Excel sheet. It could be a screenshot of a Google document. It could be a Google document that's been uploaded as a Word document and then made available here. Okay, it could be, if you're in the Apple ecosystem, it could be Pages, Keynote, Numbers. It could be a photograph, PDF document. It basically, anything that you throw at this, it will allow you to kind of annotate it as a document, and you're able to then to give feedback on this as well. So that voice integration and annotation is very powerful. What's also really powerful is if I bring this up to the top left and tap on this button, it makes it very easy for me to mark the next student's work. And if I tap on Ghulam, for example, it will upload Ghulam's work, and it might just look the same because it was the same thing that was uploaded. But if Ghulam had made any changes on here, you'd then be able to kind of see that as well. So the ability to kind of bring up work and students' work and bring up the next document is something that's actually quite powerful as well. So that quick marking for efficiency is pretty significant. A few other features that I'll also share with you as well. If I tap on a student, so Binish here, you'll notice on the top right-hand side, this video chat facility pops up. If I click on it, I won't start the chat, but it will allow me to have a one-to-one video chat with Binish. Now, why is this actually useful compared to things like Zoom and so on? Because this is a class of students that I am working with day in, day out. They have already authenticated. I know that they are part of this class. I just want to have a quick video chat with this person. Maybe they're at home, maybe they're in a different class or so on. And actually, here, I can do that very, very easily. There's no codes, there's no passcodes. It's secure, it's within the Showbie environment. They've already used their passwords and usernames to get into it anyway. So video chat here is quite a powerful thing for me to be able to use. The other thing that's interesting is if I just go back one here and I just go to class discussion, there's always something called class discussion at the top. And at the moment, it's paused. I can allow students to post. And when I do that, it means any questions that I've asked here at the top by writing a comment, students can then answer. And they can submit links, they can submit blank documents with annotations on it, they can submit images, they can submit voice, video, and so on. And they're able to then speak on here. And you're able to then kind of have debates, you're able to kind of have peer assessment and feedback and marking, where students are marking each other's work and giving feedback and so on. And also these conversations can then continue beyond the classroom, beyond the typical school lesson time, and students can contribute to this. And I think this was one of the most used features in the pandemic, where actually students were beginning to speak to one another, they were having conversations, teachers were addressing students through here as well. And certainly as a hybrid platform, you can use this in the classroom, so where students might be shy, they want to ask a question, they want to respond to someone, actually they could do it here or directly in the assignment. And you might have, some students that are still at home, so it doesn't matter if you've got all of them in the class, some of them at home, some of them in the class, or all of them at home. You're able to communicate very easily. What's also nice about class discussion is, again, in the top right, there's a video feature. If you were to click on that, then you can very easily start a video chat with the whole class. And that becomes very interesting because it's just like Zoom. You can have up to 50 people on it. And you can begin to kind of, share ideas, talk, speak to students, and so on face to face. There's a variety of schools that I know that have set up like parent conferences and parents' evenings through this as well, where parents have been able to join through the video calling system within Showbie. So that's something to kind of consider as well. To kind of move on from there, and if I was to just kind of tap on the sidebar icon here, what we will find is there's a group section. Now, if I click on groups, what you'll find is that Showbie also has the ability to create ad hoc teams of people. So there's a program called the Showbie Certified Educators Program. If you don't know about it, please feel free to Google and check it out, because it's kind of like a 4-module training program. It's completely free, but if you get through it, then you are awarded a certificate and recognized as a Showbie certified educator. You end up on the Showbie website. You end up on one of these groups in Showbie, where educators from different parts of the world are talking about how they might use Showbie, introducing themselves, have lots of different questions and so on. There's huge potential to be able to kind of make this a lot more meaningful about their work and what they're doing. But with groups, you can also have very simply somewhere where all the teachers have joined, and it's an announcement tool, and actually only certain people are able to kind of quote and kind of share on here. So you could switch on announcements only, so students can't join, nobody can join, and it's just announcements. And whoever is the owner of this group can then begin to make announcements. So, it might be a briefing, it might be an update on an ongoing thing, it might be, a weekly kind of message that goes out from the head teacher or something. It's possible to kind of set this up. Groups can have parents in there, you can have teachers in there, you can have students in there. You can't have a group just with students and no adults in there. And obviously, you can't have a group with just parents. You need a teacher in there. But obviously, there are lots of opportunities to kind of have wider community engagement through this. I know of one school where in groups, they have somebody from industry that is on that group, and they're able to support students with their engineering work, assignments, and so on as well from the real world. And they're able to show examples of how things look like in the real world as well. So this is hugely personalized feedback and assessment. It is very, very detailed. It definitely allows you to do things that simply just were not possible in the past. If I just come out of here, and if I was to just go back into our class, one thing I will mention is that there is the possibility of, if I was to go into an assignment, let me just go to Showbie Basics and go into shared items. And again, on the browser, on the iPad, it doesn't really matter. If I tap on the plus icon here, you'll notice that there's an option for quiz. Now, this is assessment. So within Showbie, you can actually integrate another tool called Socrative. So Socrative is owned by Showbie. It has been developed by Showbie. It is an assessment tool for formative and summative assessment. It's brilliant for quick questioning and actually just finding out, how much students already know or how much they've learned in a particular lesson and so on. You can create these quizzes. I'm not going to go into that now because that's a Socrative session. Feel free to come back for that. But if I was to launch the quiz and if I was to go to next, I then get an option that do I want to make this quiz teacher-paced, that, it's just the teacher that is controlling the flow of the question and what pops up next and so on, or do I make this open navigation and it's the students can complete this whenever they want to, and they can kind of begin to look at this in a way in which that's very suitable for them and their classroom. So the opportunity to kind of do this and share this is really, really quite good. So it's taken a quiz and then it's giving you the option to launch the quiz in 3 different ways. And then you've also got instant feedback, which is kind of, here's a quiz, here are the questions, and you're getting immediate feedback after this. Now, I'm not going to launch this quiz, but what I will show you is when this quiz was done, what does it actually look like? And it looks like this, okay? Here are the names of the students. You can see which students completed. So these dark gray boxes show me that actually these students completed, and I can just change the score display to progress. So here we are. I can see that these students completed. I can see the first students didn't even have a go at this. Maybe they didn't have connection. Maybe they just didn't do it. Maybe they sat in my classroom and this isn't even remote learning. And they actually sat in my classroom and they didn't do anything. Right, but I know one thing's for sure. If you were to put this screen up on a projector and you ask the students to do the quiz, you get 100% completion because they can see their name and they can see they're not making progress, and they can see everybody else can see that they're not making progress as well. So that's something where engagement can really kick in. But if you're not sharing this up on the big screen with the students, you can actually see their responses. And you can even see their results in terms of their responses to questions. So yellow questions are typically multiple choice. You have true or false options, and you have open-ended questions as well. What's also really nice with this is that, excuse me, you always get a percentage pass rate at the bottom, which is brilliant for a teacher because it's telling you how well the students are performing or not performing with a specific question, and maybe that you might need to go and cover that in some detail. Showbie does a little bit more than that as well. It will also distribute scores, in which case it's done that here, and you can then export that. Big time-saving job that you can export the grades. So the likelihood of errors or teacher inputting grades into Excel sheets and so on should be something of the past. This just extracts the data and uploads it here, or you can upload it to whatever MIS system that you might be using. Also, it says here, reports distributed, or in the first instance, it will be distribute reports. Now, that's actually quite interesting because if I just was to go to Dominic, the reports look like this because it produces an individual report for each student, and the student can then respond to any queries, or the teacher can give them feedback. Other students can't see what another student might be receiving as their independent report. It's got their name on the top here, okay? It's giving you the percentage that they've got. If they were to get a question wrong, it will tell them what the correct answer was, and so on. So there's a lot of opportunity to actually make this very, very meaningful, and make it kind of very, very useful. So it's something to definitely think about in terms of reporting. And again, you can kind of bring it up with different students. Their work will pop up, and you can then look at that and see their responses as well. And maybe they've got their World Facts quiz results document here, and this person didn't get any right, and I might be able to annotate, write, give voice feedback, or go and see the student why that was the case anyway. So that's a variety of different features that are available here with Showbie and Socrative, and that's kind of the integration piece. There are other things as well that you should know about. So for example, the activity center is telling me what's going on in all my classes, okay? I can kind of see the details of what they did. If I click on something, it will kind of take me there, or if it's done, it will just mark it as read and so on. I can kind of filter this as well by different classes, by different groups and so on. I can search for them and so on. I can follow a specific student and see their responses and get notifications from them. So this is kind of quite a comprehensive way in which you can have very detailed feedback in the way in which we interact with students. Okay, so that's kind of covering most of the main areas here. There are two other features that you should know about. Number one, you can invite parents to be kind of to join Showbie and monitor their children's work, and you can absolutely kind of get that. Get the parents engaged. They can then kind of look at this on their they can kind of then begin to look at, you know, the ability to kind of see what their children are doing. So if they can only see their child's work, they can't comment or write or anything. So that's good. So that there's not necessarily interference or kind of, you know, commenting at teachers or anything like that. So that becomes quite a powerful way of looking at things. But also what's kind of really interesting is that you can also have multiple teachers in a class as well. So, you know, if you come back to this whole workflow approach and we begin to look at some of this now, knowing what the possibilities are with Showbie, is that the way in which teachers share subject knowledge can be significantly different. Yes, you can send your PowerPoints and keynotes over to the student, but actually you can now send videos as well. So if you use something like loom.com, which is a free screen recording tool, if you're using iPads, it's built in, and the Showbie app uses the screen recording feature to be able to kind of share that very easily. So that's something that you can kind of do. And then students have access to the video podcasted content with all the details and so on. And again, like the ability for teachers and students to submit and send work to one another becomes very simplified. It's all in one place, regardless of the type of document that you might be using. It's all there. And it's very focused around the ability to annotate and give feedback. So that's quite key. And, you know, just coming onto feedback again, the way in which you give feedback becomes significantly different. So when you speak, when you add video and so on, that becomes quite a powerful thing. I'll show you one thing that I don't think I showed you before. So if I was to kind of just go back to this class, one of the things that Showbie does do, certainly on iPad, is if I was to just go to a specific class, so if I was to go to this one and Showbie Basics, and let me look at Dominic, because I do remember doing it for him. Here on the plus icon, there's a screen recording feature. Now that's actually using the iPad screen recording feature, but it does add something of a little bit more value, and that is that it does actually
this is now recording. If I tap on this document now, I can very easily just move this to the side. I can now mark and give feedback as I'm going along. So I can say, hey, this isn't correct. What do you mean by this? Can you do this part again? And so on. So I'm giving kind of feedback as I'm going along, as I'm marking. And as soon as I hit
and ask the student to record their voice and submit that to you. Okay, so not just to screen record, so that their face is being recorded, you know, their ability to be articulate and kind of consistent with their approach to teaching and learning and what they're kind of talking about is all kind of recorded. And that's pretty significant in the way in which you can kind of begin to kind of use that on a day-to-day basis. I know one teacher is now using this as their kind of detailed feedback, not every day, but when they do need to give detailed feedback according to the policy in the school, they're able to do that with this. So that's very meaningful and very, very detailed. And I think it's something that's worthwhile thinking about. Of course, you can also have multiple teachers in a class. So that can really kind of ramp up things like quality assurance, having multiple teachers in a class in case if a teacher is absent, they're still able to access the work and be able to kind of give feedback and so on. So there's a whole bunch of ways in which having multiple teachers in a class can be significantly powerful. If you have teaching assistants, I know schools have Showbie licenses for teaching assistants so that they can support the students that they're looking after across the school, and actually makes them a heck of a lot more productive, because they don't always have to be in the class with the student. They can still give them support using voice and video and so on when they're not with them in the class as well. So that becomes kind of quite an interesting way. Okay, I'm going to stop there. I think we've covered a lot of ground. I'm just going to kind of come to questions. If there are questions, feel free to put them in the Q&A. I know Sarah said at the beginning that she will give kind of feedback on this. So if you kind of want, if you've got specific questions, feel free to put them there. Alternatively, this is my email. Feel free to get in touch with me. If you are part of a school and you are potentially thinking, hey, this looks interesting, I want to trial it out, see what it's like, then Showbie does have kind of an impact study approach. So you kind of trial it in your school for 3 weeks or 4 weeks. There are certain requirements for that, not financial, but in terms of what are the qualitative and quantitative measurements. So it's kind of like an impact study that collects data and information from the teachers that are using it and so on. Because you need to know that this is making a difference. Is it actually reducing photocopying? Is it saving teachers time in their approach? Is it giving them a lot more flexibility because they can go home when school finishes and continue to do things at home, and the turnaround time is faster? Is assessment and feedback being impacted because students are engaging more and so on? So there's the ability to kind of design those kinds of impact studies and then make an informed choice about whether Showbie Socrative is something that is worthwhile using in your school. It may be that you're already doing assessment feedback and your policies are robust and so on, but actually if you can begin to kind of build on that, so you might see this as a assessment feedback 2.0 tool. So we kind of already got great assessment feedback. Well, we're going to kind of make this more detailed, more impactful and so on. This is phase 2 if you want, and you want to kind of get a few champions ready before you launch phase 2, then this is also something that we can help you work with as well. Okay, I'm going to stop there. I'm just going to go back to our Zoom session, and if there are questions, let's have a look. I would like to be visual with a sign when my pupils have read my comment on their homework. Is that possible? Yes, Camilla, that is possible. So one thing that I wasn't able to show because it's not a live class is you do get like paper clips and blue lines popping up on the side of responses. So when a student's responded or asked a question, a little blue line pops up for you and you can see it. When you've responded, a little blue line pops up for them visually, so they can see that, hey, that's been done. Other schools have actually began to kind of build a more detailed policy around it. So they're actually getting students to annotate and, tick with a green pen or add an emoji that's a green tick to say that, hey, I've read this and I've completed it. And that's something that some schools are doing as part of a policy approach as well. So that's definitely something that is possible. It's definitely up to you how you then kind of want to implement that. Okay. Let's just have a look. Is there any more questions coming up on here? Okay, in that case, I'm gonna kind of say just 2 things. Number 1, you definitely, if you want to know more about this, then I would absolutely point you to, oops, hang on, not this one. Just typing this in. if I just type in this Showbie Learning Redefined conference, if I just bring your attention to this, this is a week-long conference that is starting next week. It's all online. And we have people, educators, school leaders. We've got panel sessions going on. We've got subject specialists from primary, from secondary, from different, everything from maths teachers to art teachers and so on, that are going to be talking about, how they use Showbie. And, generally in some cases, the importance of and how technology can play a role in education and so on. So absolutely feel free to sign up for this. Just feel free to Google Showbie and Learning Redefined, and this site will pop up. And feel free to register and share as well. Definitely worthwhile kind of joining in with this, because it's the first conference of this kind for Showbie, and there'll be people that will be sharing some real tips around this, and you'll have the opportunity to ask questions to people that potentially might be of your discipline or might be in the same kind of category type school that you might be in, and so on as well. So yeah, definitely worthwhile looking at that, and I would definitely say that you should save the date with this and join us. Okay, thank you very much, guys. Thank you for joining. I'm going to stop there. Have a wonderful rest of your day.